I have somehow gained access to the single largest sealed video game warehouse in the country. The inventory on these shelves is worth millions of dollars, and the company that owns them is called Dusty Games. The owner, Bobby, has agreed to give me an inside look at how this business works and let me ask him my spiciest questions. What can you tell me about the kinds of numbers that a business like this is looking to do?
This industry is very hard. It's very cutthroat. The margins are terrible.
So when people come to you and say like, hey, I'm thinking about investing in some sealed games, what do you say? So Dusty, I'm totally in awe of the selection that you have here. Can you start off by walking me through and giving me a few games that you think are the coolest on these shelves?
I would go with the Fatal Frames. We got Fatal Frame 1, 2, 3 right here.
That is wild. Any other games from other consoles that you would say? Wow, that is wild. And what, did it just come from a stack of them over there?
There's actually was a sealed case which was never supposed to be opened because I actually was keeping this for like as a investment per se, but it got opened and here we have.
Dang. I guess I'll start with the question that I know everybody watching is wondering, which is where does this stuff come from?
Well, we work with publishers. So we work directly with the factories, the companies that make the games, and we purchase their either overstock, we get their closeouts, rebuilds, combination of like, hey, whatever they have in stock.
And this older stuff, I mean, some of these games are, 30, maybe even 40 years old. Does that mean that they were bought by you guys 30 or 40 years ago, or do you have other ways too?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Typically, all our inventory is bought through either directly from the publishers, distributors, or like end-of-life companies. So if there's a company that went out of business, we might have acquired through them too. At one point, this might have came from Toys R Us, GameStop potentially, any other retailers back in the days.
The other infinite question that you have with a business model like this is, how do you know how long to hold this stuff? Because a lot of this, I mean, it's gone up in value so much since you maybe acquired it a long time ago, so.
It's subjective.
Okay.
Sometimes we're not intentionally holding the product. Demand in the marketplace is not justified and the price we acquired for it is lower than the market price. So we might hold it till the market kind of comes to us or we go to the market price.
For example, like Elmo's 1, 2, 3s here. Do you mind if I touch, is that okay if I touch this?
You're more than welcome to.
So if you bought this for like maybe 20 bucks a piece, you may have to wait until the market rises enough.
Correct.
To make your margins on those games.
Correct. Or it could be the fact that there was just not enough demand for the product. I mean, I don't know how many people are buying Elmo's 1, 2, 3 sealed. They might be acquiring that used, but is there a demand for sealed copies?
Is there a like percentage margin that you'll hold out for, or does it depend on the game?
It depends on the game, but it depends on the market, right? So every time there's a lot of scenarios that apply. It's not a one-dimensional, hey, I have to make 10% or 5% to justify selling the product. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 50. But it depends on the marketplace and what's happening. With WADA and other great companies grading games, the demand has outweighed supply now.
Right.
So there's so many factors that come to play. It's not just one dimensional with one factor determining how we price things and how we offer products to the marketplace.
Is there another cool game or two that you could show me in this aisle?
I could.
Oh wow, so what do those run these days?
I don't even know. I don't think we even offer it to our clients, but Grand Theft Auto 2 is something that's iconic and classic, right?
Yeah, wow, and you've got a ton of them down there as well.
There's about a 10 or so, but it's not a lot of pieces that we have. At times, we might not offer these games to our customers any longer and might hold them as an investment or hedge or whatever the future might hold.
So tell me, how long has this business been in operation? I mean, like, have you been stocking some of these games for decades or are they more recent?
The company's been around since 92. I joined the company in 2001. So the company's been around since 92. We had retail stores at one point, but I would say bulk of our inventory is within the last few years. These are more oddities than the norm.
What would you say is your fastest seller in terms of across an entire console?
I would say Switch is probably the most popular item, but most of the things that we sell are typically budget price type items.
Okay.
So right now, our biggest formats that are selling are Xbox 360 and PS2. They're low priced, they're easily acquired, people play them, and they're affordable. Most our PS2 games are probably under 20 bucks. And Xbox 360 is so hot, popular right now with end of life of the system.
I want to ask you more about just the business model and especially how you're moving this kind of product. But why don't we get a little bit more comfortable in one of these rows here? So Bobby, on this channel, we're very money positive. So in that spirit, what can you tell me about the kinds of numbers that a business like this is looking to do?
Annual sales surpass about $5 million a year.
Dang.
Yeah, so we do a healthy number of units.
No kidding.
Yes. We supply almost 1,000 game stores as well.
Okay, wow.
Yes. And we also supply Whatnot sellers, Amazon, eBay, and other like online sellers as well. And also domestically and internationally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much of what you do is like B2B versus B2C?
I would say we're about 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of these are going to end up getting into the hands of like the final end buyer.
Yes, 100%. Honestly, our end goal of what we do is try to make games affordable so people can play them. Our goal is not to hoard them.
Right.
I think there was a misconception that I'm a hoarder, I'm a whatever. And honestly, our goal is to make sure games are affordable and people can play them. A lot of times, if we're out of the item in the marketplace, the prices jump very quickly.
Interesting.
Like, I'll give you a great example, like Fatal Frame. As soon as we're out of the, I believe in my mind, if we're out of Fatal Frame 1, 2, 3, the price should be about $200-300 as soon as we're out of those.
Because you're sort of anchoring the market.
Correct.
At a certain price point.
Correct. And that's what a lot of the items that we carry. As soon as I've seen it many times, where as soon as we're out of the item in on the market, prices skyrocket. And it's happened so many times where I've kind of realized that we do influence the market very beneficially for the gamer.
Yeah. So from a business sense, I feel like I would definitely be tempted to gradually like keep raising those prices. Is there any element of that you guys do just to try to optimize sustainability?
100%, we do that.
Yeah.
We do take that opportunity when the market changes and adjusts. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
Positively and negatively. So we adjust accordingly to the market. A YouTuber or a channel talking about a title will make something go crazy.
Okay, and increase the demand, and you just try to keep up.
Yeah, there are times where change of demand. Also, it goes both ways, where something like a new title comes out in the franchise.
Do you have much competition, like at this scale?
I think there are probably 1 or 2 companies that are similar, but I don't think they're necessarily competition, because they might focus on current gen. Most companies do not carry previous gen or retro games in that context.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How much of your sales is like modern versus retro?
I think we're probably, depending on the time of the year, we probably, I think overall we're probably 50-50, but depending on time of the year and seasonalities of something or spikes, we sometimes are 75 retro and 25 current gen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the pros and cons? Obviously, it seems like your inventory is overwhelmingly sealed.
Yes.
Why do you like sealed?
Well, our inventory is probably 90 to 95% sealed. I mean, it's easy to acquire. I mean, for us, it's easy to acquire. We can scale our operation. If you're trying to use games, scaling is a challenge. How do you acquire so much used product organically? I know you've delved in that by creating an app.
We're trying to.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
It's tricky though.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're like a store like GameStop, you have multiple outlets and people coming to you providing you product. We're probably based online, so we have no physical stores in that regard. So getting used product is almost it's an obstacle.
Right.
And I think companies like DK Oldies and other online retailers have tried, but it's not easy to acquire clean products specifically. Like getting product that's easily you can convert to sellable condition is a bigger challenge.
Yeah.
And with sealed games, it's sealed. You don't have to do much of anything other than just shipping the product out.
Yeah, there's not like prep or testing or really cleaning or things
Correct.
like that.
And you know what the quality of the product is. Versus there's so many unknown factors with used products.
When people come to you and say, hey, I'm interested in getting into sealed games and flipping, building a business on them, is that something that you recommend to people, or is it tougher on a small scale?
I think it's all subjective. Whatnot kind of opened up the options for independent people to buy and sell games. And it's much more fluid and it's quick. You can literally be selling all of my items on Whatnot tomorrow. It doesn't require any special skills other than having ease of using the camera and just talking on the front of an audience. If you're comfortable, you can do it. the pros and cons of selling online, it's a challenge in itself. Pretty much any industry that's kind of commodity based, which I think video games are commodity based, it's challenged because there's so many different people selling, and depending on how you utilize what your resources are, the margins are not great. We're in a very razor thin margin industry.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially with the sealed product. 'Cause
Correct.
Used, it can creep up there a little bit more, but
True, but I think the scale makes it hard too. With new product, you can scale up quickly, easily. I mean, I've worked with sellers of whatnot who've scaled very easily with using my products.
yeah.
So that's the luxury you have. You're not spending so much time of sourcing, doing all the other legwork regarding with used product.
So I would imagine you're probably selling, when you're selling in bulk, you're basically supplying someone. I would imagine there's some sort of a bulk discount involved, so it's feasible for them as well.
Correct. We typically, the margins, I mean, the realistic margins on new products is between 5 and 10% typically. That can scale up to 34% depending on what you're doing. It depends on the product, right? It's a general estimate.
So if I came to you and I was like, I want 100 platinum hits, burnout paradises,
Yeah.
you would look to sell those to me at a percent where you could make 5 to 10% on whatever you have into them.
Different way.
Okay.
I was communicating more of the 5 to 10% what the end user is the resale customer is going to realistically make if we wanted to resell it. Our margins vary. We
Depending
typically
on what you got it for.
correct, and depending on the time of the year. Sometimes things evolve where we're making negative percentages
Oh yeah.
because we are losing money because we can't anticipate the market going. What will happen tomorrow in their marketplaces?
When you look at these stacks and stacks of inventory, do you see them more as like regular business inventory or as an investment?
I wouldn't consider them assets. I think they would consider liabilities technically, but I think it goes both ways. I don't really consider video games assets typically, in a typical sense. There are one-offs where there could be considered assets, but
In the sense that they're consistently appreciating?
correct. But I think video games is not a category I would typically go say, hey, this is an asset-based industry, like gold. I wouldn't consider gold inventory, like retro inventory does appreciate, but I wouldn't consider it as an investment.
Interesting.
Typical sense.
So when people come to you and say like, hey, I'm thinking about investing in some sealed games, what do you say?
Go for it, but honestly, I would not advise it because honestly, like games are games, right? I mean, they have some resaleability, but there's no uncertainty what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, what sealed games was during pandemic and what is now is, I think, it's about 50% less, or maybe even more. So I mean, it can be an investment, but I wouldn't advise as like if I was in my situation, telling somebody else, I would advise against it.
It's not reliable.
No, but I think any collectible industry is very, very uncertain.
Yeah.
I mean, they have better returns in the stock market right now, and as a typical investor, I would advise against it.
What role does grading play in this business?
Minimal. At least with our company, minimal. We have customers that do buy sealed cases and they grade, but it's not something we generally partake in.
Gotcha. What's the reason for that?
It's too speculative. And honestly, I don't see the point of investing and holding, especially the time it takes to do it and resources it required. We don't have the resources to do it.
It would be a sort of a different business model from what you have.
Correct. It's something would be outside the norm of what we do. And we're a reseller of video games, but we're not a commodity dealer or like a holder of games for an extended period of time just to determine what the market's going to happen, what's going to happen in the marketplace. It's too hard to define what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
Do you often get accused of like trying to manipulate the market or set market prices with the quantities you guys have?
I think people think we're hoarders. It's more of a concern, like how do we sell the product is a concern. And that's why we've made the website that people can buy directly on our website now. So that concern of like, hey, where is this person selling? What he's doing? It's available on our website now, so for people can buy anytime.
Yeah. And what's the website again?
DustyGame.com.
DustyGame.com.
Yeah.
Is that specifically B2B or do you also sell singles?
This is all to business. This is strictly to consumers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a consumer website. We do have a business-to-business website, but this is only towards consumers so they can play the games if they want to or do whatever they want with it.
And is this the first time you've gotten into like direct to consumer without like
Yes. Yes.
eBay or
This is the
those
first
existing-
time we've actually delved in the aspect of direct to consumer. We tried in the past, many years ago, dismal failures because we didn't spend money on marketing and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But I think based on what I'm seeing with the market right now, I think it's the right time for it because I see what happens on eBay, Amazon, Walmart, and all these other websites. They're so confusing and so convoluted where you don't even know what you're buying.
What challenges are going to come with going like platformless or creating your own platform?
Just marketing the website. I think that's the biggest challenge, and also just there's a learning curve, right? We've never really ventured into that market, so we're still going to be learning of the ins and outs of it and curating a collection and getting pictures and doing all that stuff that we never really dealt with. That's something that's out of our specialty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Video games in general is an industry that's super easy to glamorize, to romanticize. What can you tell me about like the day-to-day reality of running this business?
I don't play video games. I think everyone thinks we play video games all the time, but that's probably the last thing I do.
Yeah.
I'm typically spending most of my hours or time or resources on the computer. I'm a data guy. We kind of visualize trends, changes in the marketplace, and in that regard, that's what I basically spend most of my time. I don't play video games, and I'm in the warehouse at times, but it's very rarely I'm out here pulling an order or doing that in that regard.
Yeah. I guess unless you count spreadsheets of video game.
Yeah. Spreadsheets of video games is pretty much my day.
Do you consider your job fun?
Yes, I do. I'm passionate about video games, so that's why I enjoy it. There are days where it's nightmarish because there's so much information you're gathering and dissecting, and that gets challenging at times because there's an analyzation and prediction of what the future will hold with the marketplace.
Yeah.
And trying to determine what will happen. It will go up or down or sideways or left or right. There's so many different factors that come into play that it's hard to predict and kind of make a sound financial decisions in best interest of the company.
Do you have in your history, I guess the last 20 or so years of this company, do you have a favorite failure?
I can't think of on top of my head. I think I have to come back to that.
Well, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some issues. We've made some poor decisions.
Yeah.
I can't, no means it may say that's never happened. Of course, we've always made poor decisions.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it, if I'm shooting 75 or 80%, I'm doing great.
Right. So let me ask this then. Can you remember like the darkest period in the history of your business and talk about how you overcame that?
I think those more personal issues in my life. I mean, at the end of the day, we're human. We've had personal things that happen outside of work. I think those are the harder challenges to overcome than the work ones. Because at work, hey, whatever issues occur, you can kind of get over those. But personal issues, they affect you mentally, and those were sometimes more draining than anything else. And the stress of that, I think it's more detrimental to my mental health at times than anything else.
As the owner of a business that specializes in physical media, are you concerned about the decline of physical media?
I am. That is a natural concern of the industry, but honestly, we work with publishers to try to make sure games are brought physically. So we've done deals where a physical game was never released. We'll bring a physical version of it. So we've done that in the past. So that's the goal, to do that in the future as well.
Yeah.
So to prolong the industry. Companies like GameStop are important to the industry. If GameStop goes away tomorrow, your chances of having physical components of video games is lowered.
Right.
Yeah, so because there's not a reason for physical games to be made at that point.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people wish the demise of GameStop. That poor ill feelings for GameStop. I understand those concerns, but as a whole industry as a whole, they are an important part of it.
You've at this point been in the business long enough to see a lot of video game businesses come and go.
Yes.
What are some common trends that you think lead to their downfall, and how is this business different than a lot of the ones that you see that fail?
I think the biggest issue that people don't realize is having the financial resources. A lot of these businesses that fail, they don't have enough financial resources. They're focused on collecting versus selling. And in this business, you gotta sell, and you gotta rotate the revenue quickly. Cash flow is very important. So if you're buying product and you're not selling it quick enough, that's gonna be a problem. And there's a margin aspect. There's a lot of areas that people forget about, because at the end of the day, it's still a business. And I think sometimes people who are game owners, they don't realize that fact that being a business owner is important. Looking at your costs, making sure you're rotating your inventory quick enough.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you look back on the last 20 or so years, do you have, like, business-wise, any regrets?
There was a time where I was offered 10,000 plus copies of Pokemon 1 and 2, or the Pokemon White 1 and 2, or I don't recall it.
Yeah.
And I lost the deal for like 50 cents.
Like per copy, you mean?
Yes. And honestly, that deal would have made me really, really wealthy if I did that deal.
I bet that one haunts you.
It does, but honestly, in this business, you have to look forward, not back. Because if you keep worrying about every spilled, what's the euphemism?
Keep crying over spilled milk.
Yeah, you're never gonna move forward.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you might, hindsight 2020, right?
In my business, I've been learning a whole lot about the power of focus, right? And like having to say no to bigger and bigger opportunities. I was curious, do you have any like big opportunities that you've had to say no to?
I typically don't say no to big opportunities. It's all a calculated risk, right? Everything we do, we have to look at the ROI and look if does it make financial sense. And that's how we determine what deals we will do versus what we do. So we're pretty good in that regard, but I think the question I will ask you, expound on what you mean by big deals. It's all subjective, right?
Yeah.
So are you refusing an opportunity to work with a publisher, or in what regard?
Or maybe like someone comes along and says, 10 years ago, hey, I want to build you a website.
Yeah.
Or like, do you want to partner in like my action figure?
I mean, the thing is, those type of deals are kind of outside our realm of knowledge. So things that are outside our realm of knowledge, I will not pursue. Because for me, it's not fiscally responsible to do. So there's a lot of factors that come into play. It's not simple black and white. If it's something related and core part of our business model, we'll entertain it. But a lot of times, I mean, there's companies out there who will pitch the idea of opening a website, but it's not simple and stupid. There's a lot nuance and a lot to it to make a website that's functional and user friendly. When
you say simple stupid, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like a lot of times, everyone pitches a great idea. Can they execute the actual the idea in a manner that can be easily managed? It takes a lot. Running a website is not simple, right? It takes a lot to it. I mean, you just launched your app. How long did that process take you?
Almost a year.
Exactly, and it took a lot more than just. It took a lot of planning beforehand, and execution took a lot longer as well.
So, in recent memory, by far the biggest spike in this market was 2020, especially with sealed products.
100%. During COVID was crazy.
Yeah, talk to me about like what was that like for you? And I mean, were these shelves bare? Were you just like fire selling everything, or what? How did you guys approach that?
Honestly, because pretty much everything was shut down. We had challenges with employees, trying to make things, try to ship things out. There was a lot of factors that came into play, but we sold a ton of stuff. And like we had Just Dance games because I guess a lot of schools were saying, hey, to get your exercise, you play Just Dance.
Nice.
So we sold tons of Just Dance games.
Right.
And by coincidence, I think we were mentioning, hey, what was one of my best deals? I picked up like 5,000 to 10,000 copies of Just Dance 2018, like a few months right before COVID.
Great timing.
Timing was impeccable because we sold through every copy of the Just Dance games we had during that time. We did about, I think during that year alone, I think we did double our normal year of sales.
Wow.
It felt like 3 or 4 months of just Christmas, which is honestly for me, it was, it aged me a lot, to say the least. Honestly, it was a lot of sleepless nights.
Probably low on staff at that time too.
Low on staff, doing everything was challenging. Luckily, we had some automations we were able to do right prior to COVID, so we were able to get through it, but it was not something I would want to do it again, for sure.
Speaking of staffing, how big is your staff here?
It typically varies between 15 and 20 people. We try to run a very efficient operation. We have most of our team members are in aspects of coordinating sales, so there's not a big staff of group of people, but it's manageable.
What advice do you have for other people who are looking to get into this industry?
Don't. But no, truly, this industry is very hard. It's very cutthroat. The margins are terrible, but it's one of those things where it's a passion project at times. The money does not justify the amount of stress and effort it requires. At times, you're gonna eat it really badly. You're gonna have days where you're losing your mind because it's such a challenging industry, and gaining that next level of business is so challenging. It's a daunting task. There are days where you'll throw like 50 darts in the aspect of trying to make 50 deals. You might get lucky in once in a month if you're lucky. Sometimes I work with companies where I've tried for 5, 6, 10 years and then finally made a headway.
So since this industry is so cutthroat, if you like tomorrow had to leave video games and take your talents to a different industry, do you know where you might end up?
Anything except video games, honestly. Video games is too cutthroat and challenging of an industry. The audience sometimes is challenging as well, but I would probably get into something sales, probably medical sales or something that is a lot more relaxed, because this industry is kind of stressful, to say the least.
So you mentioned at one point you guys had retail stores.
Yes.
How did you know that it was time to pivot away from that business model?
I think the challenge is the managing employees. Staffing became an issue. And this is cloud computing. This is early 2000s. So point of sale systems and software systems that you could utilize to do multi-store thing was challenging.
So back in the day, you guys pivoted away from retail. At this point, you're pivoting more into the website.
Correct.
Talk to me about that transition.
Honestly, we felt the industry was lacking. GameStop's doing a poor job doing consumer sales now. I mean, half the time when you go to the website, they're out of stock.
Yeah.
To me, that's unfortunate. There's gamers out there who want their product and want to play games. They can't find it. And then eBay, Walmart, and then Amazon, their database has gotten kind of poorly managed. There's so many redundancies and images are incorrect. You don't even know what you're buying.
Definitely the case with Amazon. I'm sometimes shocked with how bad their listings are.
Well, same thing with eBay. Honestly, like half the time when you're trying to buy a brand new product, it's used. The way they classify things is so confusing that I think that the time was ripe for someone to come up and provide products of what they're buying versus, hey, I don't know what I'm buying.
Yeah.
So I think that's a change that I wanted to bring and implement into the industry by making sure people buying sealed games can actually get sealed games in proper condition.
Well, and it's cool to go into a market kind of with a specific mission in mind, a gap that you're trying to fill.
100%. Honestly, I think I wish someone else did it, but honestly, I've taken a giant step by doing this, and I think it's going to be hopefully beneficial for gamers and myself as well. But end of the day, the goal is to provide a resource for gamers to enjoy games and receive games in the condition they expect.
At this point, you are easily a top 1% video game business in the world. What did you have to sacrifice to get here?
My health sometimes. It's a lot of sleepless nights. A lot of sometimes sacrificing my kids' time. Relationships were affected at times. And so unfortunately, that's the reality of the business, where to be successful in business, sometimes you make sacrifices that in long term are not the most beneficial. I have some regrets, of course. Would I do some things differently? For sure, but honestly, overall, I'm happy with where I'm at in my life. There are days where, hey, I made some probably bad decisions, but you can't go back in time, right?
Right. I look around at the operation here and I can't imagine a next step, but I'm curious to hear from you, like, what's your end game with all this?
End of the day, hopefully retire one of these days. That's the end goal, but one day, honestly, I've thought about this and ideally would like to do this, open a museum. Because honestly, I genuinely like the industry. I like video games and I've been collecting forever. So I would like to open a museum. That's a wishful idea.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it entails and how to go about doing that, but that's one of those things where I would want to do.
That is something I have to say I've never heard someone say before. So that's a cool vision for the life. Thanks so much for having me out.
Thank you.
And if you want to see how I run my video game wholesale business, but on the used game side, check out this video right here.